Hey, how about you, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Auburn Live Show Recruiting Edition, also known as the Shriveled Pod. I'm your host, Jeffrey Lee, Senior Recruiting Editor for Auburn Live on 3. If you're not a member of that site, you're missing out. Lots going on this past week, lots coming up, and we've got it covered from A to Z, kind of like Jeff Bezos. I'm rocking the glare today. If you can't tell, I usually have a hat on because of this, but as Jhead said, be proud, son.
You
Be
got
proud.
to, baby. Be bold, be beautiful, be bald, man. Come on now.
Yeah. Well, hey, if you're just joining us, Jhead, top
How
right.
about you? How's everybody doing today?
Very good, very good.
Dude, you know what? And Cole Pinkston, let me get Cole in there, too, before we start running
Yes, sir.
along. Man, you know, yesterday I woke up, walked outside, had a little coffee, had my toboggan on, had my hooded sweatshirt on, and, you know, by the end of the day, I was at the pool putting on sunblock.
Look at you.
That's right.
Hey, you know what? That's just those Alabama Springs, man. You can go from a nice 60 degrees to a nice, really hot 90 degrees there pretty quick, man.
It went from December to June in about 6 hours.
Yeah, it's my least favorite time of the year. I like it when it's 100 degrees. That's
Just
definitely
consistent, right? You just want to be
Yeah.
nice and sweaty.
every day. You know what you're getting. You know exactly
Walk out,
what you're getting.
The humidity makes it feel like it just rained in your pants. Understand?
Right.
Something else do that to me. Hey! Oh, goodness gracious. Let's get on to the recruiting talk because, man, we've got a lot to talk about, man. A lot going on right now. It's in the heart of the eval period. Visits are coming back up in May, June. Visits are being set. Auburn's getting back in the mix for several things. But before we get to the football, the biggest story of this week as far as Auburn recruiting goes with five-star forward Julian Phillips taking an official visit to Auburn. He came in on Monday with his father. His father left on Tuesday. Julian stayed and left Wednesday morning. And told us when he left that he might be done with things. I don't know if you should read into that. He's already taken several, but he's got 3 more visits to take, but I think he's kind of, I think it's Auburn, Tennessee. From people that know a lot more about it than I do, it's Auburn or Tennessee. Tennessee's making a big late push with NIL. They are, they're playing the game, and that's something that should at least be considered when moving on with your hopes of Julian Phillips. Although I put in a prediction for him Sunday night, I still feel good about it. I don't think it's a slam dunk by any means. I think I put 60 or 65%. I give Auburn a slight edge. Honestly, though, I will say this. I thought something might happen while he was on campus. It didn't. But I don't think there's anything, again, not to read into that too much. He is going home, going to talk it over with his family, with his coaches, try to make the right decision. I think he'll have a decision. At least one is expected either later this week. Hell, today's Thursday, so probably early next week. Man, these basketball guys, dude, it's tough, man. It's tough.
They're tough, aren't they?
Oh, my gosh. He's an awesome kid, though. That's my first time talking to him, but he's an awesome kid, has a lot of good things to say about Auburn. I thought one of the more interesting things and takeaways from that interview I had with him was that Juwan Traore, Auburn's 5-star signee and fellow former LSU commitment of Julian Phillips, was texting Julian throughout his visit, telling him to come join him at Auburn. I thought that's big when you've got a guy like that. And they've already been members of the same class once. Both of them were committed to LSU before Wade Phillips. You know Wade Phillips. Married Julian's mom. Wade Phillips.
Yeah.
Wade got the strong-ass boot. And then these two guys open things up. Auburn's trying to capitalize on that. And I think we'll know a lot more soon. I do think it's down to Auburn, Tennessee. I think Auburn's got a slight edge. But, ask Tennessee, and they might tell you something different.
I agree. And from kind of poking around on my end of things, Jay Lee, what I hear that's most important to this young man is development for the NBA. Bruce can automatically point to Jabari Smith, JT Thor, multiple other guys that he's put in the league here recently. I'm going to say this: regular season Rick hadn't really put a guy in the NBA similar to what Bruce has done here recently. I think that in and of itself, showing the ability to get guys not just in the first round, but in the top 5. I mean, because Isaac Okoro, I think, was also a top 5 pick, at a minimum a top 10. So you're putting guys in the lottery, and that catches kids' attention. I think he sees the opportunity here at Auburn. He obviously already has a comfort level with certain players that are in this class. In addition to, his former counterpart that was committed to him with LSU, he also has a relationship with our combo guard.
Was it Zep?
Sir?
Zep?
No, not Zep. The kid Chance Westry.
Oh, him and Zep played AAU together.
I forgot about that. I forgot that they were also linked to the same AAU coach. So, multiple relationships with this staff, with this team. He's a fit for what we need as far as the stretch 4 is concerned. Could also play 3. I think he's still a little bit raw, and that's why from his ball handling standpoint, overall offensive awareness, I think he's a freak athlete. But I think right now, if you're going to plug and play him, he translates better at the 4 and probably working in combination with Jalen Williams, which leads us to, what does Bruce do at that 2-3 spot, or do we bring in Jhead Broome? I know that that's a consideration, and kind of that's probably the most interesting thing to me moving forward is, how do we maneuver that? How do we massage that to get the absolute best player that we can get? Obviously, I trust Bruce to do whatever he thinks is in the best interest of his team. I have my own thoughts on what we need to do to upgrade the 2 and the 3, but I'll definitely back in that to kind of see what direction we go.
Well, a week ago, I would have said Jhead Broome absolutely will be a part of this class. Auburn's the team to beat. He's not going to Florida. He's coming here. And then Julian Phillips buzz kicked back up, and then it was one of the 2, and Julian Phillips. If they get Julian Phillips, is not going to get Jhead Broome. They're going to look for a 3 or something, or hold that spot. Now, today is Thursday. Auburn is going for an in-home visit with Jhead Broome, and I'm back on the Broome to Auburn train. I'm back on the train. I think they went from, we're going to take Jhead Broome, to, hold on, let's see if we can get Julian Phillips. And if we get Julian Phillips, we're not going to take Jhead Broome. But Julian can play the 3 or the 4. Jhead can play the 4 or the 5, which I thought from the get-go, even when I reported it was Phillips number 1, and if they get Phillips, probably going to lay off of Jhead Broome. And I thought, well, what do they have to do with the other, unless it's a number issue, if you want to sit out that 13th guy, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, like you said, dude, I trust Bruce Pearl. If he says they need him, I believe him. If he says they don't, then I totally believe him. But I feel like Jhead Broome is, as of today, back in the picture. I think if they can get both, they're going to take both. And Julian being that 3-4 guy, with Jhead Broome being that 4-5 guy. And we may hear something from Broome before we hear something from Phillips. I think Broome's ready to cut the deal.
I think he's 100% ready to go. I think he was ready to make a pick last week.
Right, me too.
They obviously had to give it some air, let it breathe for a second, figure out exactly how they wanted to handle this, particularly before they went for their in-home visit. Because when they go for that in-home, they want to be able to tell him this is the plan.
Right.
I don't think at any time you walk into a kid like Jhead Broome's house and say, hey, we love you, but,
chill out.
Right. I don't think that's the message. And I completely agree with you that it would make it seem as though if they're going to go for an in-home visit, that he's more than likely probably going to be a take.
I do too. And I think he will go public as soon as they'll encourage him. Yeah, right. I really do. I think he is at the door knocking, and Auburn's kind of opened the door, and, just kind of checking him out to make sure he's not, somebody else. And then they're going to let him in. And I don't think that would. So if Auburn were to get Jhead Broome, my message to the Auburn fans is don't think that it affects Julian Phillips at all.
No.
At all. It doesn't affect the numbers. He's still going to have a spot, and it doesn't affect his recruitment because they're 2 different positions. I think it was a case of Auburn going, do we need that guy, or do we want to wait and see if we can't? But Julian, 3 to 4, Jhead 4 to 5, take both, and then let them sort it all out in the summer. Let them run up and down the court. Let's see how these chips fall. And I think that's kind of Auburn's plan as of now. Of course, we've seen it roller coaster with this guy the past 10 days. But as of now, I think Auburn, if they can, will take both of them.
Looking forward to see how that plays out,
Whew, God bless America, man. Somebody asked me about basketball recruiting or something. How do you keep up with those? I was like, man, believe it or not, it's a lot easier as far as who it is, because basketball is, sometimes it's 3 or 4 guys you just got to track, but there's so many different ups and downs with each of those guys.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, twists and turns, and it's like football. Dude takes a visit, he sets his date, and then he announces his commitment, and it's done.
Oh man, it's like the NBA. There's drama to everything, dude. You watch
Jeez.
as the world turns, as the ball bounces over here at Auburn basketball, baby. But that leads us to a nice segue into the visitors from last weekend for football. Speaking of big visitors.
Big visitors. Wow, what a big weekend. We kind of previewed it last week. For those that missed the show, Auburn had 4-star running back Jeremiah Cobb, 4-star wide receiver Carmelo English, 4-star DB Tony Mitchell. Who am I leaving out? Oh my goodness. Before I get to the 5-star, who was
5-star cornerback
Jaleel Hurley, Alabama commitment.
Who's that? I'm not familiar with that guy.
You might remember him as a sophomore.
Let's not leave Auburn commitment center Braden Joyner, who
of
may
course
be the most that was there, because he was in the ear of probably every kid that stepped through that door.
Hey, he does a great job, man. Every time I see him, he's just got such a rapport with all the other guys. Even at the Under Armour camp, he was the most popular guy there.
You love those kids that love your school and want to rep your brand 24/7. I mean, he fully embraces peer recruiting. And it's incredible when you see a kid of his intellect and his character, and you get him in a class early, what they can do. And so really excited about Braden Joyner, not just obviously what he brings on the field, but, his presence on campus and his proximity to campus, because his willingness to come all the time. Yeah. I mean, you had that story on him coming up today for Miles McVay when he didn't need to be there and walk the kid around, the entire campus. But what do you guys think? I guess we can start bottom to top. Tony Mitchell. Did we make a move? Are we interested with what happened with Tony Mitchell? What do you guys think?
So I will say this, and this I feel pretty good about. Auburn wasn't in his top group before he came. I think Auburn's going to be in probably his top 3. I mean, that's saying something. That's pretty big news. Now, I talked to Tony off the record, just exchanging pleasantries and sitting around just shooting it with him. And him and Braden there at the end of their visit on Saturday. And, man, he had a good time. He didn't want to do an interview, which was fine with me. But I really feel like Auburn is much more in the picture than it was, I think, Alabama, Florida, and Auburn.
Yeah.
That's huge news.
I throw Tennessee in there, too. He was once committed there, actually, as an 8th grader.
Damn, I didn't know that.
Sure was. Yeah.
Jeremy Pruitt making moves with McDonald bags.
Before he ever played a snap of high school football, by the way. He was committed to Tennessee. And I don't know. They're probably working back into that one too. But did Auburn make a move? Yeah, I mean, I agree with Jeffrey. Probably made a move. I'm still not confident that they could pull it off. Of course, Zach Etheridge hasn't given me a reason to doubt him yet. So I'm watching. I'm still watching there to see what happens as that one goes on. So,
look, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. When I found out that Tony Mitchell was coming, my intrigue was up. Okay. I'm with you. I don't think we're the top team by any means, but the fact that you made any move and that you're in any top 5 group now is significant in that we weren't even listed, a month ago, as being a team in contention. That in and of itself speaks to, how special recruiter Zach Etheridge is becoming.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Tony Mitchell is not, he's not a 3-star guy that, is just dying to get an Auburn offer. I mean, he's got everybody, mom, any school he wants to go to in America is knocking down his door over at Thompson. And Zach was able to get him on campus, not only get him on campus, but put a move on him. Yeah, that's special, man. That's special just in and of itself. Now, we'll see where it goes from here. But really like to hear what Jay Lee reported coming out of that visit, particularly his feelings on Auburn.
Yeah, and by the way, Jhead, just in general, man, from last season around this time, I mean, some of the guys that are on the commit list for 2022 that signed with Auburn you didn't even know who they were yet as far as Auburn targets, like Austin Osbury. I don't think they offered him in August, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got the top targets still coming to campus. You got the top targets putting their stuff out on Twitter about Auburn. They continue to hear Auburn out. Zach Etheridge. Everybody that's there, and just to me, to be able to do that in March, April, you're just way ahead of where you were, man. I think the defensive recruiting has seen an uptick, personally.
I completely agree, and I think it's seen an uptick for the right reasons. I think we all have been to Auburn's campus. We all get that feeling when you're there on Auburn's campus that you just can't get through a Zoom call, right?
Yeah.
So with Auburn being that special place, you have to visit there to get that feel for it. When they say family at Auburn, it's legitimate. And you feel that when you come on campus and you interact with the people in the athletic department and you kind of get an understanding for Auburn. And it's one of those things that you just have to experience. And I think COVID was particularly nasty to us in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
And you just could not get that transferable feeling through a Zoom call or a telephone call or a text or whatever it else is that they were having to do to sell these kids.
Yeah.
So he's one of those kind of guys. You get him on campus, you have an opportunity. You got to continue to get him on campus and track those visits. But that'll take us to Carmelo English, Central Phoenix City. How we feeling?
Yeah, well, I'll come out and say that I put in a recruiting prediction for Auburn for English with low confidence. I went as far to make the prediction, but I have low confidence because I still think there's a lot to play out there. Mm-hmm. But he keeps coming back, man, and that's always – and like you're saying, you get people on campus at Auburn and things change a little bit. That's where the biggest pitch is for coaches at Auburn. They got to see things for themselves. They got to see campus, see how the coaching staff works and everything. And he keeps coming back, and I think it's because of Ike Hilliard. I really do. I think there's a big relationship building there, and he really believes in when he says he can go to the next level. I mean, he did it himself. That's how he sees it. So I think Auburn's the trending team. I don't know if it's close to over yet. I think Alabama's still in the picture. Kentucky's still there too, but
definitely. Yeah.
Getting him over again was huge, and I think they'll get him again soon to come visit. So
what you think, Jay Lee?
Yeah, Cole took my talking points. I think the relationship that's budding with Ike Hilliard. I mean, I really think Melo is very impressed and almost starstruck at Ike Hilliard and his resume and him coming up as often as he does. You talk about visiting Auburn and making an impression, but the more you come back, the more you get to see how genuine it is for a lot of people, not for everybody, but for a lot of people. And I think he is one of those guys, and his desire to come back and just spend the Saturday just shooting the shit with these guys, hanging out and being a part of a group. Man, it was a really impressive group that we're talking about right now. I think being close to home is big for him. I think his mom being happy is big to him, and early playing time. I mean, when you look at this wide receivers group, as I did a couple of times back in the spring, I'm going, God dang, man, like let me get one of them jerseys. Hey, yeah, I mean, so when if you're a stud wide receiver, you're looking at Auburn and just licking your chops because you can compete to be in the rotation at the very least as a true freshman. I think that's huge. Hilliard's huge. Close to home is huge. I think I'm with Cole. To me, it sounds like Cole's feels comfortable enough that Auburn is the team to beat enough to put in a prediction, and I wouldn't argue that at all. If somebody said Carmelo English, I'm saying Auburn right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'd probably say Carmelo English 40, 50%, something of that nature. That's kind of my feel on it because you got to account for that variable of change of what could happen between now and the end of the summer and early into the season. But
yeah.
I'm with you, and Jay Lee has said this from jump. There are kids that do not want to go to Alabama and wait. They want to play right now. Carmelo English strikes me as the kind of kid that's competitive. He's not scared to compete, but he wants to play now. And he sees that opportunity to play at Auburn and that they could really use a playmaker like him and accentuate. And he thinks a guy like Ike Hilliard could accentuate his skill set and get into the league. So I think that's put us in the driver's seat. Obviously, how things play out on the field this fall will probably dictate what happens with his recruitment. Because it's been a great season. We probably don't have much of a shot. If we end up surprising some people and making some noise, I think you can lead very quickly with him.
Which is what we've been saying is what Auburn has to do to continue this momentum, to capitalize on this momentum going into the season. Make some noise, man. Win some games. Win the games you're supposed to, and win a couple you're not. And just don't tank. You're gonna you're going to be able to really capitalize on this momentum that you've made for yourself in the spring and the summer, which brings me to Jeremiah Cobb, who was again in Auburn for the fourth time. I think it was the second time in the last 10 days. He comes down from Montgomery. I think he had a teammate with him, but he just came down and just chilled with Cadillac Williams all day Saturday. I talked to him. He's going to come back for an official visit in the summer. Right now, his plan, I think I've got a lot more confidence in Jeremiah Cobb and up at Auburn than Mello, but still I'd probably put in a prediction for Jeremiah Cobb. Have you done that, Cole?
I have, yeah.
Okay, I wouldn't.
February.
I would feel good about that. I think his plan, at least publicly, I think we might have mentioned this last week, is to take some visits in the summer and then make his decision later in the summer. But as he told me, you never know. You never know.
I think he said, July, early August time frame, probably, Jay Lee. That was what it was looking like. And potential visits to Auburn, Tennessee, North Carolina, and Georgia. I think that was the top 4 that he reiterated to you guys.
Yeah.
I think it sounds right.
Of those, I think it's really Auburn, Tennessee, or that's the feel I get from this recruitment from like that 10,000-foot view.
Yeah.
And I like our chances. I think a Montgomery kid that's idolized Cadillac Williams, has a great relationship with him, knows we're going to feature him in the run game. Because Tennessee's run game, I mean, they have a run game, but it's not like they're pounding the rock 30 times a game. That's not what Josh Heupel wants to do. Yeah. So I think carries, obviously Tank is going to be leaving. I think a lot of dominoes fall in our favor as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, agreed.
So that leaves us with Jaleel Hurley,
which was the surprise, which we had gotten wind of. This is a 5-star commitment, 5-star Alabama commitment. Jaleel Hurley from Florence, Alabama. He's the number 2 ranked cornerback in the 2023 class. He's the number 21 overall recruit. He's the number 3 overall recruit in Alabama. He's committed to Alabama, but he visited Auburn Saturday, and Auburn, it wasn't a token visit, man. This kid grew up an Auburn fan. He's always wanted to come to Auburn, and I feel like some of the stuff Auburn went through, the turmoil Auburn went through the past 3 or 4 months, played a big factor in him committing to Alabama, but he was able to come down and really spend a lot of time with Zach Etheridge, with Brian Harsin, with Jeff Schmedding, and he left Saturday and made some interesting comments, I think on Snapchat or Twitter or something. No, not with Twitter. It was
Snapchat. Yeah.
Snapchat, yes. I got to figure out how to use that, but. I think he said something like, my family said you can't go to Auburn and play in the NFL or something like that, and I think I'm going to prove them wrong or something. Just get a good heads up if you're an Auburn fan. And as I think Cole wrote Thursday morning that Hurley will be back at Auburn soon.
Yeah, not sure when. Just there's possibility of him returning pretty soon. So we'll see if that happens.
Well, you got to like it. You got to like momentum. If he comes back on campus, a second time here relatively soon, we don't know exactly when that's going to happen.
Well,
obviously, sooner rather than later would be fantastic. But I would really be encouraged to see him show up on campus again.
How many games, Jeffrey, did we see him at last year? 3 or 4, right?
Yeah, it felt like every one that was worth watching. You know what I mean? Every game that was worth attending, he was there. And so he is such an awesome dude, man. He
doesn't have a problem riding down to Auburn.
No, not at all.
A problem.
And I will say this about him. I think the good thing about Jaleel is it's going to be quick. Like, we're not going to be, is he coming back to Auburn in the fall? Is he going to come back in the signing day? I think if he's going to do something, he's going to do something within the next couple of weeks. If he does come back to Auburn, I think it could be immediate. So I don't think we'll have to. He is declining any interviews publicly earlier this week. That's usually a good sign if you're a school trying to flip a commitment.
Yeah.
But Zach Etheridge key here. Jeff Schmedding was big last Saturday. Brian Harsin. But I tell you what, and I spoke candidly with Jaleel before he left, and he really likes Brian Harsin. He loves the discipline he's instilling in this team. He's one of those kids that loves that kind of style. He loves that culture that Brian Harsin is bringing. Some of them don't, and they're gone, and people are on the boards going, oh. But man, these are the kids you want on your team. Give me 85 Jaleel Hurleys. Yeah. Championship contenders, man.
Well, here's the thing. Everybody has to have their own style. Every coach needs to be successful in their own way. but a guy across the state from us doesn't play bullshit either.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but and he's been doing it very well for a very long time. So I think having those kind of kids that have that business mentality, that business mindset to come in here and say, you know what, I'm going to attack this like a job each and every day. You know what I mean? Rent's owned, it's not leased, and you got to pay, you know what I mean? You got to pay rent every day, and that's the way they attack it, man. And I love the mindset of kids like that in recruitment. I love the mindset of the guys like that on my team. So big fan of Julian Hurley and looking forward to see what he does.
Yeah. I feel – go ahead, Cole.
I'll just say this too. We always follow the visits. The visits are important. We always put a lot of emphasis on those, and there's a good reason for that. When he was supposed to commit, or he had like a commitment ceremony, or he was going to put something out as a commitment graphic or something back in like December, it didn't happen. And that was, to me, that was like, okay, well, I just saw him at Auburn a week ago. That's just something that made me question it a little bit.
When did he commit?
February, I believe.
I was going to say either late February, early March-ish, I think, Cole.
Yeah.
I think that's the right time frame.
Like a month or two ago.
Yeah,
it wasn't long ago.
Not long at all.
But, it wasn't long before he got back on track and Alabama was trending again, and he made the commitment to them, he was going to in the first place, more than likely. But it's just that raised my eyebrow. I was like, wow, he was just at Auburn twice. I mean, I saw him at Auburn twice. I think Auburn's in this, and I never thought Auburn was out of it, even when he committed. Because, as you saw last year, committed guys, that didn't mean anything. They were going to recruit the guys they liked. Bottom line, doesn't matter who you're committed to.
No. Here's the thing, man. He's a great player. I don't watch a lot of film. That's not my job. That's Cole, and you guys are a lot better at that than I cover the recruitment, right?
Right.
And the story, the public perception, the buzz it would create to flip not only Robert Woodyard in December from Alabama, but to turn around and do Jaleel Hurley, the 5-star cornerback from Alabama, for this second-year coach who went 6-6, is huge.
That sends shockwaves, Jay, because that sends a message across the state, basically saying not only are things fine at Auburn, but I'm going to put my 5-star signature on the line and back this guy and tell you why it's fine. That opens a lot of kids' eyes if that happens. I'm not saying it's going to. I'm not predicting it's going to. But if that happens, that's a game changer. Big time.
I saw an interesting quote from former Alabama running back Mark Ingram the other day about Nick Saban, and something that Nick Saban said to him when he recruited him. He said something along the lines of, you can come to Alabama and, further your football career and be a great player one day, or you can go somewhere else, and that's on you. To me, I don't know, I'm not speaking on any former coaches or any other coaches in the SEC or anything like that, but Harsin preaches the same kind of style that
middle
Nick Saban
approach,
does. Absolutely.
I
mean, he's on record all the time of talking about the process and the fit and this is how we're going to do things here. It's not your way, it's my way. You want it done right. That's that quote he has.
Do you want it done now or do you want it done right? Yeah.
Right. So maybe some of those guys that have always been drawn to Saban's way of doing things at Alabama are also drawn to Brian Harsin's way. But Auburn is helping, just coming to Auburn, visiting Auburn, being from in-state, knowing about Auburn, it helps too. And maybe that's why some of these things are happening now. And, Brian Harsin's got a totally different approach than what we've seen in a while at Auburn, and he may have different results because of that, right?
It'll be the proof will be in the pudding.
That's right.
You're going to see some proof of concept. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen this year probably, as far as seeing that progress that you need to see in year 2.
Yeah, that's right.
Julian Phillips just posted his photo shoots from his Auburn visit, and I got to admit, I freaked out for a second.
Yeah, you thought it was a commitment, huh?
I thought it was a commitment. I was like, hey, cut this shit. Y'all got it.
Yeah, man, we got to end this podcast now. Dad's
yeah.
story here.
Thanks for coming on there, guys. Oh, man. Hey, so We'll be keeping an eye on Hurley. I tell you what, some other news that didn't come with visits, but we're talking about Mellow English being from Central Phoenix City. We all agreed up till probably last week that Tamarian T.J. Parker, the 4-star edge from Central Phoenix City, was a no-go, not happening, don't waste your time, forget about him, he's not coming to Auburn. And out of the blue, earlier this week, got a tip, man, give him a call. And I did, and this dude would not shut up about Auburn. Not only was he, I was expecting, I'm kind of giving him a look. I'll probably take a visit there sometime this summer. No, man. Jimmy Brumbaugh went down there in the spring, saw him practice, and has been all over this kid. And it has paid huge dividends. I mean, he is eating it up. This is a kid that I thought, like Jaleel Hurley, wanted to come to Auburn. I thought he was ready to commit last November. Yeah. And then Nick, I'm not blaming Nick Eason or Burt Watts or Derek Mason or anybody else for for being the cause of him sliding down Auburn's board for whatever reason. For not garnering any attention from Auburn. I think that was his biggest thing. He was pissed that he didn't get any love from Auburn back in the spring eval period. So for him to not only say Auburn's back in it, but I'm going to visit. I love Jimmy Brumbaugh. Rock Bellantoni is also helping out there. Brumbaugh's been all over this kid, and he has gotten Auburn back into the mix with T.J. Parker, and he will visit. And if Auburn were able to get him, it would be, and personally for me, the biggest 180 I've ever seen. Because I talked to T.J. And I didn't write all this. I talked to him back during that, when was it winter eval?
Yeah, it was the winter eval period when we waited to the last week or last day to go see him.
Mm-hmm. And he was pissed. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And right, I don't blame you, dude. I never put myself in there, but he was apologizing. I was like, you don't have to apologize, man. I mean, he was mad. There was no chance. No chance he was going to visit. Auburn was having a junior day the next day. And Auburn went in on Friday, and he laughed when they asked him if he was coming tomorrow. So he went from, not only am I not going to Auburn, but I don't even want to hear it. Like, he was done. And then now he's Jimmy Brumbaugh, man. That he is, his buddy Pat Nix down there.
Yep.
I think that even gives. I think his emergence back in the picture for Auburn, T.J. Parker, is probably gives credibility to the fact that Carmelo English is also really enthused with Auburn here lately too. Yeah. They are teammates, and really English his name kind of went away for a while. He just didn't show much interest in Auburn, and then came back, and now they're back in the picture like they are now, and I think that probably spoke to Parker as well.
And I think it just speaks to the roller coaster that is recruiting, particularly recruiting in the SEC. I mean, these kids are up, they're down, and I don't blame T.J. Parker 1 second for feeling upset or as though he feels like he's a top 10 prospect in the state and he wants to be recruited like a top 10 prospect in the state. And he's starting to receive that from Auburn, and it's a place that he wants to feel that love from. And when you get that love, you just want to make sure that it's going to continue to be there. And I think that's kind of where we're at right now is we've made some headway. We're way back in the game with him, but now you got to continue to let him know you love him, you want him to be on campus. Keep on coming back, big fella. We got a spot for you. Keep on coming back.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys see him as an end like 5-tech, or do you see him as an edge? He's got a huge body, like a body frame.
I think he's an end, personally.
I think so too, Cole. I think he's going to grow.
What did you say?
I think he's a hand on the ground end.
Kobe Wooden.
Yeah,
similar.
That's the way I see him.
He could maybe do both. And if I'm not mistaken, Kobe Wooden sort of was that way at one time, where he kind of did both for Auburn.
100%. And Rodney always thought he'd slide inside. Remember,
Mm-hmm.
after he got the kid signed, he's like, yeah, he's a natural 3 tech. And he'd been telling the kid he was going to play. You know, he rush in the entire time.
Yeah, right.
So, but no, you see that with his frame, his size. Now, I mean, I think he's every bit of 6'5", 250, and he's just now in high school.
Yeah, some people you just call it the look.
Yeah.
That college ready look.
Yeah.
Just as a early on junior last year coming to the games, he had the look. He was right there with the big boys like Tony Mitchell and Peter Woods and all those guys. He's got the look with them for sure.
And watching him play this year against Auburn High School and 2 SEC linemen now, and obviously an Eston Harris and Drew Bobo.
Yeah.
He was the most dominant line of scrimmage player in that game.
Yeah. Yep. Also had a big game in the championship against Thompson too as well.
Yeah, he did.
Speaking of
that leads
visits,
us into some other big visitors that may have scheduled official visits.
Yeah, man. Speaking of visits, a lot of guys have set up visits to Auburn. We've confirmed several already. We knew about Clay Whedon, the 4-star offensive lineman. He's coming in June. June's going to be a busy month.
Yes.
June you're going to be your elite camps, your O-line, D-line camps. You're going to have official visits. You're probably going to have a Big Cat weekend in there at some point, maybe even the last weekend in May. I can't remember. But official visits that we know of at this point, confirmed a couple. Clay Whedon, we said. Raquez McElderry, also known as McElderry, as he's a UGA 4-star offensive line commitment. He's coming in the last weekend in May for an official visit.
Have we gone a podcast without saying McElderry? I'm just curious. I think we said that.
Man, you got to keep that train rolling, baby.
Yeah.
We get comments on that every week on YouTube. I'm telling you.
Choo-choo. McElderry, son. McElderry, Jamal Jarrett, big defensive tackle from North Carolina, who Anisha Sledge was a big friend of. He's coming in the first weekend in June. Jordan Hall, the linebacker. Is he at IMG or he's down in
IMG?
IMG.
Yeah, he's at IMG.
He's coming in June 17th. Coming in. And I talked to Keldrick Falk the other day, 4-star defensive lineman from Highland Home here in Auburn. He's going to, from here in Alabama. He is going to Florida State June 24th, but he's looking at June the 10th for an official visit to Auburn. Also, June the 10th weekend, keep an eye on Ruben Bain, the 4-star edge from Florida, from Miami area, I believe, who has a big, long-standing relationship with Rock Bellantoni. At least his brother played for him at Florida FAU, right?
FAU,
yeah,
Florida
Atlantic. Florida Atlantic.
Isaiah Nixon is another guy, big-time edge, who I'm keeping an eye on for June the 10th. And several other guys I think are in the process of setting dates. And we've mentioned them, big common players.
Confirmation to that, I put out the story on Wilkie Denard, a 4-star edge rusher from Florida. I don't know if he's going to officially visit June. He's June.
What day?
Not sure yet. Not sure yet on the date, but he's supposedly coming to visit in June. Working on that now. Rock Bellantoni got a good relationship with him. That's the main reason that he wants to come check it out. So that'll be an interesting one too.
Wilkie. And then you've got Wilkin, who has set an official visit to Auburn.
Yes,
Wilkin Formby.
Yes.
Wilkin Formby has set an official visit to Auburn, 4-star offensive lineman from Tuscaloosa. He has set an official visit. I do not know the date, but I'm working on that. But I think it's going to be sometime in June. But that is a done deal. I think that's going to be Stanton Ramil. Damn it. Can ever pronounce that dude's name right? Is it Ramil?
It's Ramil.
Ramil. You had it right the first time, baby.
Ramil. That's what I said the first time.
It is.
I'll tell you what. We talked about this cat last week, I think, during the D-line, but Sadir Mitchell, 4-star defensive lineman from Bergen up in New Jersey, and somehow we lost Jhead, is going to come down for an official visit. Still working on the date with him. Now, speaking of official visits, huge one starting today, Thursday. And I say huge because I think all transfer visits are huge. I really do. I mean, I think that's all big news for a transfer to come in. Learned on Wednesday that Obua Isabor, an edge from UCLA, is coming in for a visit on Thursday. He's going to stay until Saturday. He is an intriguing guy in that Auburn has to have edges. They probably need two guys. God bless you. And they're so thin at the position. If you're going to add a depth piece, who better than a sixth-year senior who's played 5 years in a college program, one as big as UCLA, to come in and to provide some depth, an experienced guy who's got his head on right, and who's played some. I was actually reading up on him earlier today. He was expected to be the starting edge for UCLA this year. So it was a big blow for them when he entered the transfer portal. So you're getting a guy who is in his sixth super senior year, who's been at UCLA for 5 and was expected to be a starter this year in the Pac-12, and you're getting him to come in to be a depth piece for 1 year. Yeah. So it doesn't hurt you recruiting young guys.
No,
because he's gone.
Not at all.
To me, that's big. That's big.
I took a look at him last night, Jeffrey, and I expected. Well, he's been there for 5 years at UCLA. I expected, he probably started getting some playing time his sophomore, junior year, and I kept going back through the years and looking at games, and man, he was not starting, but he was the biggest pass rush rotational piece for them as a freshman back in 2018. So this guy's played a lot of football, right? I mean, he has been playing a lot for UCLA. So that alone is big for a young edge group, with guys that are still learning like Dylan Brooks, and then you got 2 guys that could move on next season. So
and from kind of what I've been told regarding his recruitment, they're kind of selling the production that TD Moultrie was able to have last year is kind of him being that piece.
Oh yeah.
And it's a great pitch because TD was a very similar player that had played a lot. He had production, but he had never had that breakout year that he would have had last year had he not been suspended during that, unfortunate 4 or 5 games during the middle of the season. I think his stats would have been even better. It's never a bad thing when you're bringing in a kid from a place like UCLA where Chip Kelly values culture as much as any coach. So you're not going to have a kid that's been in that program for 4 years that's just going to come in and completely mess up what you're trying to accomplish if you're Coach Harsin. So a good kid, has experience, has production, doesn't cost you a scholarship down the road. To me, it's all plus signs. And if you get out of him what his max potential is, you're talking about another guy that can contribute another 5 to 6 sacks this season to go along with what you get out of a Leota, to go along with what you get out of a Derek Hall. Mm-hmm. To me, that has the makings of a really great group. So I really like the visit. I like the experience. I think it's all plus signs for Auburn, and it's definitely, other than wide receiver, our biggest position of need. There's no question. From a number standpoint, we just absolutely don't have enough players at that position. So.
Yeah, right.
Speaking of wide receiver transfers, I did get some clarification on Caleb Chapman, who we mentioned as a possible target for Auburn, a transfer guy from Texas A&M. I think Jhead, I didn't see it, but Keith Niebuhr from Auburn Undercover reported, or posted at least, that he was not an option, and that is confirmed. I'll read you checked in with a compliance guy. Transfer rule still applies for grad transfers, so to be eligible immediately, they had to be in portal by February 1 to transfer within the league. So he wouldn't be able to play this fall if he were to come to Auburn.
That's unfortunate because he would have been a really great piece, but understandable. Rule's the rule. Uncle Keith usually isn't wrong when he makes posts like that, but glad that we can get it confirmed on our end. But that does move us to another big-time receiver. And my phone lit up when he hit the portal. I texted you guys. You guys immediately got feedback like, yeah, we're interested in this guy. But wide receiver from Arizona State, Ricky Pearsall, who to me compares very favorably to what you just lost in Kobe Hudson, except I don't see the issues with drop balls and passes.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to knock Kobe. He was a young player that was still trying to emerge, and that happens with concentration at times. But very versatile piece, can play in the slot, can play outside at the Z. Like the versatility in this game from a route running standpoint. above average speed. I mean, he looked to be, from my novice eye, at probably somewhere around 4.5, I would speculate. Yeah. And had the ability to take it on jet sweeps and do something with the football in space. So it would be a really great pickup. I think he's visiting Florida this weekend, probably coming to Auburn next weekend. I think that's kind of where what we've been leaning towards or what we've been hearing. So really interested to see what you guys think with regard to Pearsall and his recruitment.
And he's a bigger guy too.
Yeah, he's 6'2", 200, I think.
Yeah, definitely north of 6 foot. I think he is north of 200 as well. So yeah, and if you notice, the guys that they're going for right now in the transfer portal are bigger guys like Caleb Chapman and Bub Means was. Because they have guys like Javarius Johnson and Tavares Dawson who are smaller, quicker guys. They want a more dynamic room for the receivers, and that's the main goal. It's not necessarily getting a good receiver to come play. It's having a different change-up type of receiver that they don't have currently.
Well, and the hidden benefit with Pearsall is obviously Harson's former OC at Boise State, Zach Hill, was the offensive coordinator at Arizona State. And this is kind of some information that leaked towards me in that kind of gives him a leg up, or why we would even want to pursue him even more, because he's very familiar with concepts and scheme that we want to install here at Auburn. Yeah. So that transition that you typically have, that fall off and not understanding or knowing the offense, you don't really have that with Pearsall. You've got kind of a built-in advantage there as far as his understanding of how everything works and what you're trying to accomplish. So really big-time target for us, and I'm just excited to see if we get him on campus, can we make that move on him? Because obviously there's some other big-time programs there. Florida's a very good school. Billy Napier's a very dynamic recruiter. Notre Dame's sniffing around, a handful of other schools. Oregon, I think, is sniffing around. So, yeah, there's some really good schools that are in the mix for Ricky Pearsall. So hopefully we can make a move here and lock this recruitment down.
Yep. Absolutely.
3 guys that are in the portal I haven't heard much about, but people are asking about Quayshawn Fuller from Florida State, James Robinson from Tennessee.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Christian Bolthalter from UCLA. Haven't heard any of those names. We did. Jhead posted on the corner today, Thursday, that Christian Bolthalter could be a guy to watch, but there's some things that they're going to have to check on with him. I don't see him being a top target at this time right now, but I got to keep track of. But the one guy we do know that Auburn has interest in is Casey Rogers, the D lineman from Nebraska, who's probably more of an interior guy than he is an edge or an end, from what I was told. I think a lot of big programs are coming in on him. Auburn hopes to get him in on a visit soon, and I think that's going to happen. Trying to think who Florida, Notre Dame also working on Casey Rogers. That's probably
Florida,
the
Notre
biggest
Dame
competition.
Just visited USC, so serious competition.
Just visited USC, so yes. But Auburn definitely would love to add him. Trying to get him in for a visit, probably happen soon. Turning to, let's do, where are we?
5 for 2.
All right, we're good. Hey, let's do. Let's do some 5 for 2. Now we've already done linebackers, but we're going to revisit a position each week. I mean, I don't care if we've done them or not because it changes so much. To be honest with you, though, not a lot of my guys on the linebacker board have changed.
Yeah,
but not yours. Mine did. My whole board blew up. And I said this last week. Well, not last week. I think I said it on the corner this week. Listen, Christian Robinson has completely and utterly annihilated my recruiting board. He has far exceeded my expectations since getting here on being able to get in on guys that I didn't think Auburn would be able to get in on. But he's leveraged relationships that he had at Florida. He's continued on with those relationships here at Auburn, and he's getting guys on campus. And I'm not talking about like low end. And look, I'm not one of these guys that gets into the star rankings and everything else. That's like not my deal. I would much rather watch their film and tell you how I think about them.
Yeah.
But you're talking about guys that are highly, highly coveted guys by a lot of different schools. And when we start our 5 for 2, I'm going to list the other schools in the mix, and you're going to see the level of competition we're up against, so these kids can play.
Right.
And, Jeffrey, I love the way you set it up last week where we each list our 1, and then we come back and we each do our 2.
Yeah.
I think let's continue on with that, man. I think that's perfect.
And my names haven't changed a lot,
2,
but
4,
my
6, 7.
my order is
2, 4, 6,
definitely different. this time.
Let's hear your one then, Cole. I'm ready to hear you go, baby.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, number 1, Jhead Osbury, younger brother of Austin Osbury from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. That's my number 1. Jeffrey was way ahead of this one. He said, I feel pretty good that Auburn's made a big move there, and then now that he's been on campus, I feel the same way.
That's why Jeffrey's my real daddy.
Hey.
Listen,
You're done,
man, I'm the
son.
same way. Jhead Osbury, 4-star linebacker out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Major competition from LSU, Notre Dame, and Ohio State. Look, when those are the teams you're competing against, you know this is an upper echelon kid.
Yeah.
Not only is he a fantastic player, he's a fantastic kid. Love our positioning right now, and I agree with you, Cole. I had him much lower because I thought the competition dictated as such. But with his brother being at Auburn, the relationship Zach Etheridge and Trevon have, the relationship that Christian Robinson has, have a lot of things, and how receptive he's been to Brian Harsin. We have a lot of things working in our favor here, and I really like. He's obviously not ready to commit just yet. I don't get that sense.
Yeah, no.
But I love our position in his recruitment.
Yep.
And mom, I think mom's a big deal too, man. I
Yes.
think mom,
Mom's always a big
when you can go to one place, every weekend and see both of your children play football on the same team and live together in the same apartment and be away from home but not be too far away from home. I really feel like Auburn is absolute, and he might be a guy who plays it out, man. And that'd be all fine. But I think when all's said and done, man, it's going to take a lot to overthrow Auburn at the top of his list. He's going to be back. He's already been back. I bet you he comes back with Austin when he moves in at the end of May. I bet you he comes back in the summer for an official visit or in the fall for an official visit. He's going to be at games watching his brother play. There's going to be a lot. It's going to take a lot, I think, to get off. Jaden is going to have to be one of those kids where I go, I want to go do my own thing.
Yep.
The problem with that for other schools is that he's not that kid. Him and Austin are like, me and my brother fought like hell, right? If he was going west, I'm going east, sons. And but they're best buddies. They're best buddies and care a lot about each other. And I really feel like it's going to be tough to overthrow Auburn at the top for him.
Yep.
Who do you have, Jhead?
Jeffrey Lee's lines from the corner to Captain America. Bow to your sensei, baby. So I'm going to take that on that one. You know what I mean? Bow to the sensei. I had to re-rack there. So number 2 is going to be Jordan Hall from IMG for me. Other teams in the mix are going to be Florida and Michigan State. I love the fact that we've already got him committed to coming in on an official visit here in June. Really like his body type. He's a prototypical Mike linebacker. I think he's already 6'2", 220 plus. Bigger guy. We talked about this last year. Needing that big Mike linebacker. That's what this kid is. Excited to see kind of the direction of his recruitment.
Yep. And,
I agree. I've got him. I've got 1 and 2, Osbury and Jordan Hall.
Yep.
I've got my number 3.
I do too, Jeffrey.
I've got my number 3 as what's that, Cole?
I said I do too. I got the same for 1 and 2.
D. Creighton.
Okay.
I got D. Creighton. And I really don't have any reason why, to be honest with you. My 1 and 2 were – I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other guys, probably more like 4 or 3. And I think it's I don't really have an order. I'm just reading you what I wrote down. He's from Denmark.
Yeah.
Alpharetta, Georgia. I think, isn't that the same place as Sham?
Correct.
Isn't he
Yes,
teammates
it
with
is.
Sham, the OT?
Yes.
Yep.
Who both of these guys have been to Auburn. I love Christian Robinson. He's almost he is like Zach. This dude. I have covered recruits when they were being recruited by Christian Robinson at Florida. I know what kind of dude he is as far as a recruiter goes. I've met him a couple of times since he's been hired. He's an awesome guy, and he's an awesome recruiter, and it shows in his recruiting. You got to give a little bit of an edge to Auburn when that guy wants you and he's making you a priority, and I think that's kind of been the way with D. Creighton. He's been met D's family, his father. I think he's very big in his recruitment, getting D on campus as often as possible. I'm looking at the RPM on 3. It looks like Clemson's got a slight edge over Auburn right now. I think that'll probably change once D comes back, which I expect him to do very soon. So I would say, to be honest with you, I would probably throw. Hold on, I'm gonna go back. Let's go back to Jhead for another guy. Give me another guy in your top 5.
All right, so the next guy in my top 5, and it's just because I like the way his recruitment is starting to kind of blossom and play out, and I like the competition of who we're up against. I'm going to go with Grayson Howard from Jacksonville, Florida. I think he's an emerging prospect for us. He's somebody we got on campus here recently. I think South Carolina's the team he's visited most to this point, and they obviously feel very comfortable with that recruitment. Let's see if Christian Robinson can make a move here. I got a feeling that he's the kind of kid that we can make a move with.
Yep.
And look, I'm not trying to downgrade South Carolina when I say this, but they don't scare me in a recruitment, okay? When we're up against South Carolina, it doesn't have that same feeling of when we're up against Alabama, when we're up against Clemson, when you're up against Georgia. And that's no knock to Shane Beamer. I just like the way his recruitment is laid out, and I like the fact that there's not a true emergent number 2 team other than South Carolina in the mix. So I think it's a place we can kind of make a move. And once you get him back on campus for an official visit, let's see how it all shakes out. Cole, what you got?
I agree.
I'll go with C.J. Allen next. To me, C.J. Allen, he kind of blew up all at once with his recruitment, and that was one that he was really lowly rated, I think, when Christian Robinson sort of offered him and got to talking with him, and I think that probably made an impression on him, and I'm expecting him to be back soon. I don't know when, but he's kind of a quiet guy. I just think he's definitely in the mix there, and I think Auburn's absolutely in the mix with him. So he's on there. And I also had I had Grayson Howard too in the same area on my list. Jhead.
Okay, Jeffrey, who you got?
C.J. Allen. Number 4, Troy Bowles.
Yep.
Okay,
that's my last.
No. Grayson was 5 for me. Troy was 4 for me.
Okay.
And my first alternate was C.J. Allen.
Okay.
Gotcha.
All right.
Those were my 6. Jhead Osbury, Jordan Hall. My 6, my first alternate, of course. Jhead Osbury, Jordan Hall, D. Creighton, Troy Bowles, Grayson Howard, and C.J. Allen. I think those 6, if you let me have 6 this week, I think C-Rob can get 2 of those guys. And I really think we may not get past my number 3.
Phew.
And Phil Picciotti, I mean, have you ever heard of Phil Picciotti?
Yeah. From Pennsylvania.
100%.
He's on there too, man. They love him, and if they could get him, he's just one of those, long shots. I mean, he might be a top target, but he's not on my 5 that they're going to get 2 from.
No, the guys that I had to finish out my list, I'm with Cole. I actually had C.J. Allen at number 4, and the reason is he's on OV scheduled to UGA, Tennessee, USC, and Oklahoma, which means that we're fighting, I think, Florida for the last official visit spot with him. So if you don't get him for an OV, I obviously don't like our chances there as far as that's concerned. No. But you're right. He's 100% blown up completely. And he's a great – I think you said it on the last one. He's probably the best athlete I've seen at linebacker in this class. I mean, he's just outstanding.
Yep.
Troy Bowles was number 5 on my list from Tampa Jesuit. Also in the mix are Ohio State, Georgia, Oklahoma, Clemson, Florida, and Rutgers. And if everybody's scratching their head saying Rutgers, his brother plays there. And don't forget that Todd Bowles is his father.
Oh, yeah.
Who used to be the head coach for the New York Jets. Now is the head coach for the Tampa Bay Bucks. A lot of connections to a former Tampa Bay Bucks head coach, Greg Schiano, there at Rutgers. That's something to pay attention to. Let's see if we can get Troy back on campus. Fantastic player. Just a lot of guys, a lot of people in the mix for his recruitment. And my 2 bonus names, as Jay Lee said, D. Creighton for me and Marcus Pulliam. Those are the 2 guys I'm watching as bonus players.
Yeah, I forgot about him.
I think Pulliam just got offered, and they may actually have his attention right now. Georgia Tech is also in the mix with him.
Where did you have D. Creighton, Cole? Did you have him at all?
Not in my top 5. He would be the 6th man.
What am I missing here?
He didn't come on the last visit to Auburn, so I'm kind of – until he comes back, I kind of want to see – he was very complimentary of Auburn when he was there in February. He hasn't been back since. He was supposed to come back when Sham was on campus, but I don't think he actually made it. So if he makes it back to campus, then I'm going to like our odds a little bit better, but I need to see him come back to kind of see what he says the second time. I typically don't put a ton of stock into what a kid says the first time they're on campus, but what are the odds that they come back for a second, a third, a fourth time? And that's kind of what I want to see from him. And if he does that, I probably will move him up above C.J. Allen and Troy Bowles.
For me, it's two things. One, I really think Clemson made a big move on him. I really think Clemson's probably the leader for him. And two, I think Jay Nosberry, Troy Bowles, Howard, and maybe Allen are all ahead of him on the board. That's just what I think personally. So we'll see how that plays out. That's why I have him lower right now. Probably earlier in the year I would have had him higher, but right now he's lower for me.
Well, yeah, and like we just talked about, if a C.J. Allen comes off the board to Georgia pretty quick, well, that moves him into your top.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Obviously, as players start to make plans and make commitments, that kind of changes the direction of the board to a degree. Not that we come off that all that much. I mean, I feel like we recruit kids that are committed elsewhere as hard as we do anybody else. But as you come to the conclusion of a recruiting season, sometimes that'll play a factor.
Yeah, right.
Fair enough. I think I was doing most likely. Like, I think he's more likely to end up at Auburn, regardless of where he is on the board, than Grayson Howard.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that's why we're sharing lists, man. Everybody got their way of doing things. I like it.
No. I like your approach, and that's typically how I approach it. The way I see Grayson Howard is that, he may pop tomorrow to South Carolina, but if we get him back on campus, I just like our ability to change the dynamic of that recruitment. That's the way I see that. And I think he is going to be back on campus, I think sometime in June, or at least maybe that's my understanding of the way that recruitment is trending.
And it's like I wrote on the Recruiting Insider Wednesday night. I heard a lot about Zach Etheridge around this time last year about how, the waves he was making in recruiting, just him individually. That's what I'm hearing about C-Rob right now, and they have some confidence that he's going to pull a good linebacker class. So
no doubt about it. I mean, he's
no reason not to think he can, right?
No, absolutely.
I mean, you saw what he did at Florida. I mean, he beat us a couple times for kids that we thought we had in the bag.
Sure. Already committed to Auburn.
He beat us for Shamar James last year, and he didn't even have a head coach.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That is true.
Hey, so we're going to taper off now. We've got a big week coming up. Next week's show is going to be full because we've got all these guys coming in for visits. We've got Julian Phillips and Jhead Broom in basketball, probably more than likely making decisions over the next week. And also, we forgot to mention this guy, but Roderick Robinson, 4-star running back from San Diego, California, coming in to visit Auburn next Wednesday. I don't think it's one of those I got to go visit Auburn, but he's coming this way. He's going to visit Auburn, going to visit Tennessee, going to make some stops. But Auburn is definitely in that list. I think he had a top 9, and now it's a top 10 with Auburn inside of his group. Another guy to keep an eye on. As far as how about yous this week, man, we've had a lot of traffic going on the corner, man. Some really good posts, some really good posters.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any how about yous before I get going? Because I've got a lot.
Jhead, you got anybody?
Yeah, and I need to get his name just right. I think it's AEU. Let me look it up real quick. I don't want to missay his name.
What about you, Cole? I bet you're on AUEE1.
Yeah, the one I'm looking for has got one of those AU names that I get confused all the time. So I'm trying to make sure I've got the right guy here.
Good grief. Both of you. You had one job.
One job. All right, so it's AUREO. AUREO.
Let me see. Oh, Ario, yeah, man.
Ario, yeah.
So Ario Speedwagon.
Yeah. And mine is Aubrey.
He had a post, I guess, a couple of days back on SI, more NCAA changes, talking about the NCAA Transformation Committee. Thought that was a fantastic post that he put together, and it obviously illuminated to the changes that are on the horizon as far as the change in power from the NCAA to potentially changing that down to the conferences having more power and having decision-making as far as how they want to accentuate baseball scholarships, coaching staffs, everything else. So thought that was a really thoughtful, insightful post. and really enjoyed that thread.
Yeah, and mine is
he brings a lot to the board, man. I'll be 12. He does too, man.
I'll be 12. And I have one more too, just for the sheer fact that he posted all the notes from Cadillac Williams talking to the Marshall County Auburn Club.
Oh, yeah.
MSLTR1, I guess is how we're going to say that.
Yep, he was on my list, big dog. That was awesome stuff. If you weren't on the corner to read his post, he went to an Auburn Club meeting up in the Gaston area, if I'm not mistaken, and gave a very detailed rundown of what all Cadillac Williams talked to the group about and some good stories. It was very insightful. That was a fantastic post. I tried to like it twice. It wouldn't let me, but he definitely made my how about yous this week. So a big how about you to MSLTR1. That was fantastic stuff. And REO too, man. He brings a lot of stuff, discussion stuff that he finds on the interwebs. And I'll be 12's great at producing traffic. I think he's a great poster, man. He's one of my favorites. Big how about yous to both of those guys. Let me give me a good rundown on my how about yous this week. Got to kick it off with the Dong Dong.
Yay!
Yep.
I got Dong Dong. Got a big how about you. He was he was on last week and enjoyed the show. And the reason he made a funny comment. An Aub Kitchens fan actually nominated Dong Dong for the how about you. He said if you don't get a how about you for that, nobody should. So big how about you to Dong Dong. Big how about you to Aub Kitchens fan.
Kitchens fan.
Dong Dong said, Aub Kitchens fan. He said my great uncle No Boy Dong moved to Amarillo years ago. He was kicked in the dong by a mule and had to have it lanced and drained. He still speaks to Dr. Perriman's gentle touch and calming bedside manner to this day. So, big how about you, Dong Dong, Aub Kitchens fan.
Without literally like losing it, man. Hats off to you.
There was man. We've had some really great threads on the corner. So
hearing about his relatives never gets old.
No.
Also, big fans of the show each week at Tank Biggs, at Elator, at Feels Like a Stranger, and then at Gene Parmesan, who was nominated for Dingleberry of the Week, but I vetoed that because he had some really, really funny posts. There was a basketball thread, and it was a good news, and all of a sudden, people just started bashing all of Auburn's bench players, and he was like, man, what a weird thread. It started out great, and now somehow before page 2, everybody's bashing the bench guys. So at Gene Parmesan for leveling it off this week. I got at Real Steve Vaughn, at No Shoes AU, at BK11AU, at T Phillips 1007, and our new guy, a couple of new guys to the board, iDice.
Yep.
And at Baneful Brad, welcome to the site, man. We appreciate you. We appreciate
show,
get in there and start pumping out some content on the corner. We love to hear from you guys, and it is easily my favorite message board.
Yeah, no doubt.
And if you're not a member, man, you really should be. We got a special going on, as we always do. Is $833 a month. I mean, if you sign up for the year, one free week. If you don't like it, you can take off. But I guarantee you that won't be the case. Come on, join us back again next weekend. We're gonna have a great show next week with a lot of stuff. Like I said earlier, a lot of stuff going on this week. We'll kick back up next Thursday and revisit what has happened. Hopefully, we got a couple of commitments to talk about, and certainly not to other schools. For Jhead, for Cole Pinkston, I'm Jeffrey Lee. Stay out of the left lane unless you're passing. See you.